So how good of a scarer was George Sanderson? I mean, he attended Monsters University, he was involved in Jaws Theta Chi, and landed a job at Monsters Incorporated. I mean, he'd even scare alongside the great James P. Sullivan. With a resume like that, it would seem like George must have been a great scarer, but while his background proves that there is more to George than just being a monster who gets ambushed by the CDA, the truth is that he was one of the least effective scarers at Monsters Inc. But why was George struggling as a scarer? Why couldn't he climb higher up in the ranks? And what was actually holding him back from a top spot? Well, by going through his background and his scare stats, I think I've found the answer. You see, George Sanderson was a monster who was born on October 17th in his hometown of Hornsville, and he grew up to be a 6 foot 11 inch tall monster who would weigh in at 706 pounds. He was huge, just underneath the size of Sully, and this presumably seduced the recruiters at the top scaring school in the monster world, Monsters University. After being admitted, George came to campus alongside monsters like Mike Wazowski and James P. Sullivan. In his freshman year, he was even in their Scaring 101 class with Professor Knight, and he'd compete against them in the scare games after joining the Jaws Theta Chi fraternity, better known as the Jocks. Unfortunately though, his association with this fraternity might not have been the greatest decision. You see, according to the official description of Jaws Theta Chi, the Jocks were known as being big on brawn but short on brain. They were massive, scary looking beasts and brutal competitors, but there wasn't much more to them than that. Sure, the Jocks were constantly working to become even larger monsters by living in the gym, but they were not well known for developing into formidable, intelligent scarers, and that was the outcome for George Sanderson too. Plus, they were cheaters, and they weren't even effective at doing that. I mean, they literally got kicked out of the scare games for cheating in the first round, when Uzma Kappa was clearly going to lose. Nevertheless, George made it through MU, and he'd receive his dream job right out of school because he had mastered one move. By having a perfect execution of the McDougal fake-out technique, Sanderson was recruited straight to Monsters Incorporated, but he wasn't able to live up to his full potential. You see, according to his original scare card, one explanation for this is because he was not blessed with the best of luck. You see, over the course of his career, George had been forced to take several toxicity-related hiatuses. Like, he's been fully decontaminated 3 times for bringing back toxic materials from the human world. And while his fur always grew back, it definitely led to some setbacks for him as a scarer. For example, the longest sabbatical George took was over a year. In George's 8th year, he wasn't able to scare a single child on the scare floor, presumably because of all of his issues with bringing back toxic things like little baby socks. And while I think it's possible that some of these instances were accidents out of his control, I fear that George may have just been a bit unfocused and undisciplined. And unfortunately, his scare stats paint a similar picture. You see, while the average number of dead doors per monster across the scare floor was a little over 5 dead doors a year, George was doubling, tripling, or even quadrupling that number of dead doors. According to his scare card, George averaged over 13 dead doors a year across his career, and in his 7th year, prior to his year-long hiatus, he maxed out at 21 dead doors. He had a lot of issues consistently scaring children and avoiding problems when he entered into the human world. But that wasn't the only thing that was holding him back. George also was one of the lowest performing scarers when considering his average scare total increase. While the average scarer on his floor was increasing their scare total by 8,774 each year, George only averaged 6,554. And in his top year, he only got to 7,881. That's less than half of what high performing scarers could produce. Like Pete Claus Ward and Joe Rampt went over 16,000 in their top years, and Sully and Randall peaked at over 17,000. The only reason George ranked 8th overall on the leaderboard was because he has been a scarer for 10 years. The scarers below him all had been scarers for less than half the time he had been scaring. The truth is that while George Sanderson may have begun his career with a lot of promise, he just wasn't able to bring it all together. He may have come from a great school, but he struggled to keep dead doors alive. He may have been hoping for good outcomes on his scare floor, but he stalled his career by constantly bringing in objects from the human world. And he may have been a big monster, but he wasn't consistently scary. I think Pixarpedia explains George Sanderson the best. He was easygoing, laid back, and popular, and that's the way he wanted it. He was not going for the top spot. Oh, and if you'd like to see more Monsters Inc. videos like this one, follow for more. And finally, I'm Isaac Carlson. Thanks for watching, and have a magical day.